Hey guys, today we get to see an update October 2nd. That will be yesterday. Stipulated protective order by Magistrate Judge Patricia Donahue. And what is a stipulated protective order? It is a type of court order that the parties in a lawsuit agree to, stipulate to, and then submit to the judge for approval. So, how it works in litigation, especially in civil cases like copyright, trade secrets, employment dispute, or business cases, parties often need to exchange documents and information during discovery. Some of this information may be confidential, such as trade secrets, financial records, private communications, or sensitive business data. To protect that information from being made public, the parties can negotiate the terms of how it will be handled, who can see it, how it's marked, whether it can be filed under seal, etc. As we saw with the Pixie versus Destiny, as we're seeing with Logan Paul versus CoffeeZilla, discovery often is whether or not something should be private or it can be made public. When both sides agree, they write up those rules in a stipulated protective order and submit it to the court. If the judge signs it, which they did, it becomes binding just like any court order. So it's almost like you and the boys are outside and you're doing pickup basketball, and there are no NBA rules, right? There's no referees. You got to call your own fouls. And this is what's happening here is you are essentially calling your own foul when needed. An example of this in a copyright case, if one side has to turn over internal sales numbers or licensing agreements, they might only agree to do so under a stipulated protective order that limits access to attorney eyes only or restricts how the other side can use the documents. As we see from Pixie versus Destiny, this is very, very important because YouTubers, influencers, you're dealing with two individuals who live stream, Ethan Klein and Denims. And then again, you can extrapolate this to Frogan and as well as Caseytron for a living. Of course, when juicy information comes out where they can probably make content from, but they should not be making content from, it is you have to somehow prevent them from making content. One example again is Destiny, and you might think, "Oh, Destiny had the right to make." Well, he's making things more complicated for him because then Pixie can file a motion saying, "Hey, you talked about something that was under seal at the time, meaning you shouldn't have talked about it." And I get the argument, "Oh, it's from memory." We can go over that case, but it's just kind of like if he didn't keep talking, there wouldn't be so many motions, and because there wouldn't be so many motions, maybe the case would have resolved much earlier. But because Destiny kept talking every time he talked, Pixie filed a motion. And then he had to respond to the motion, and then the judge has to decide on the merits of that specific document being sealed. So, what are the type of confidential material that we'll see? So, definitions of confidential material, it normally is going to be called confidential or highly confidential, attorney eyes only, which means the other party is not going to see it. Examples of this would be private financial data, medical information, HIPAA laws apply here, source code for an app, or licensing agreements. How much did you pay for the licensing? Designation process, how a party makes something confidential, stamping documents confidential, what happens if there is a dispute. So again, we are seeing this in real time with Logan Paul versus CoffeeZilla. They are fighting over every single shred of grass right now. In terms of emails, text messages, and so on, it can go for a long, long time. This is not a fun experience if you are the party being sued, because the party that is suing you can always just be like, "Oh, I don't think it's confidential. Show it to me." And then just think about the process. So the judge is like, "Hey, you guys meet up, confer, hopefully you agree." "Oh, we don't agree." "Okay, I don't think it's confidential. You think it's confidential. okay, let's have the judge look at it and make a decision on just this one piece of evidence. And many times, a lot of these things are kind of put together into one judge appearance. So the judge is going to make a ruling on multiple pieces of discovery, whether or not it is confidential or not. And even if it is, uh, is there a journalistic privilege? Is there something else at play which probably we want to protect? Yeah, I mean, it's not easy because each discoverable piece could be labeled confidential, and then the opposing party could say it's not confidential, and then it has to go to a judge to decide. But before that, they're going to waste time talking to each other and not really. It's very, very time consuming because each piece of discovery can be fought over, and that is what Logan Paul is doing to CoffeeZilla. So, filed under seal. So this is something that happened in Pixie vs. Destiny. If parties need to submit confidential material to the court, they must follow procedures to file it under seal, not publicly visible. So if it's under seal, you do not want to make a live stream talking or being anywhere close to that piece of content, because as soon as you do, you're going to get hit by a motion. So return or destruction, interesting enough, when the case ends, parties must either destroy or return or destroy all confidential materials. And sometimes, depending on the nature of the material, they actually need a third party to destroy it with certification. A process challenges a process to challenge the other side's destination if they are overusing confidential. You can see a scenario where everything is confidential and I don't want to give you any piece of evidence. You would have to challenge that. It would probably, and it would be a very painstakingly expensive. This whole thing, discovery, is the most expensive single piece of a lawsuit. It's not actually trial, because trial is 5-7 days. It's very expensive, of course, because these are very long days and they're very expensive billable hours that your litigation attorney, perhaps the associate attorney, perhaps maybe a paralegal. So it's going to get out of control because they're just sitting there the whole time, right? But this process, because maybe they're not working on it whole time, but over months, if not years of discovery and confidential, not confidential, I'm going to file this motion. It is a bloodbath in terms of legal hours, simply because every shred of grass. And again, another very good example is Logan Paul. Logan Paul, his one huge benefit from a lawsuit perspective over CoffeeZilla is he just has money. And money is a large benefit because money can allow you to say it's confidential or not, and then argue it, and then you lose. That's okay, because I'm just going to say the next piece is confidential and continue battling. This is why cases take so long. It's because often both parties disagree at the discovery stage of what is public, what is private, what should be confidential, and what should not be. This is real. This is a real deal. Like, once you get to this stage, your bills are going to, like, as somebody who's just been recently through a lawsuit, your bills are going to be absolutely ridiculous. The bills, the amount of money that you could possibly be spending has just ballooned. So typically, you do want to avoid this stage in settlement. If you are able to avoid this stage in settlement, you will save quite a bit of money, right? Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Definitely a tough place for Denims to be in, because these billable hours are. This is the stuff that really kills you in terms of how much a case costs. It's the minute details, but it's over and over again. It's things where I don't want my text message to be public, but is it public? Is it? I mean, remember they accidentally published Logan Paul's phone number to the public. Mistakes can happen during this segment where things that should not be private or things that should be confidential or not, either via the court by making a mistake in publishing it, or, for instance, Destiny talking about it on his stream, where he really shouldn't have talked about it at that time. And that's prolonged the case, where I think it was a relatively simple case, has now become a much more complicated case because he cannot shut up. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Bye, guys.